Hello, end of March 2025. Still here, still on Mother Earth, watching the planets as they appear to travel around us. When we're talking about prosperity and growth, we look to the planet Jupiter. In the language of astrology, Jupiter symbolizes growth and expansion, ever increasing size. It's the planet of excess and extreme overdoing, as well as prosperity and increase that one would desire. The planet Jupiter symbolizes luxury and the higher echelons of society. It indicates higher learning, degrees, university learning. It indicates philosophy and religion. It's the higher mind, and it is the higher side of society, including luxury and prosperity. This is the positive side of Jupiter. It also symbolizes government to some degree. Long distance travel, all ninth house things are Jupiter things. So in the month of June this year, Jupiter will enter Cancer. Every 12 years, Jupiter makes one full cycle around the sun and appears to make one full cycle through a person's chart. In Donald Trump's chart, we see that Cancer is in the 11th house. Where is Cancer covering which house in your chart? That's where Jupiter will be traveling this year, as of June, starting June, and for one complete year ending in June of 2026. 1 year per sign, 1 year approximately per house, transiting Jupiter. And the energy of the planet, in this case growth and enlarging energies, attention, increase, this energy of the planet is reflected in the things of the house it is presently transiting through. So if you know where Jupiter is transiting in your chart, you know where the seed potential is this year for growth, for expansion, and prosperity. The planet Jupiter in the birth chart, how it was aspected, what sign it was in, what house it was in, and how it was getting along with the other planets the day you were born, how it was aspecting them. This will have a relevance as to what degree of prosperity transiting Jupiter will reflect in your experience as it transits through your chart once every 12 years. So the condition of Jupiter in the birth chart is very relevant. Now, when we look at Donald Trump's chart, Jupiter in the birth chart was in the house of finances, money. One would know that he would handle money in this life, either as personal monies or as part of work. The seed potential for prosperity when you're born with Jupiter in the financial house are very high. But Jupiter now at this time is in Gemini, getting closer to Cancer, where it will enter in June. So during the last year, transiting Jupiter has been traveling through the 10th house of Donald Trump's chart, bringing attention and energy potentially for growth and expansion in this area of his life. And the 10th house is your public reputation. It's your professional reputation. It's how the world sees you, your image in the world. So Jupiter's been traveling through his 10th house all this past year, and it will be conjunct at the same point where the sun was when he was born, sitting conjunct his sun at the end of April, early May of this year. Something's going on in Donald Trump's life in the month of April that's very extreme and will draw a great deal of attention. When transiting Jupiter is conjunct the sun, the energy of the individual receives a great deal of attention from the world. If we look back for the last 3 cycles that Jupiter traveled through his chart and was sitting conjunct the sun, and this would apply to your chart and to your life, in terms of growth and expansion, what was going on the last time Jupiter was in Cancer in your life. What house do you have Cancer sitting on? Jupiter was last sitting in Cancer in 2013. It entered in 2001, was the cycle before that. In 1989 was the cycle before that. Now, in 2013, when Jupiter was on the Sun for Donald Trump, he gave a speech at CPAC, which was very focused on anti-immigration. He expressed his political views outward into the world in a very, shall we say, noticeable way, and the energy and focus was on him at that moment. If we go back to 2001, that was the year that the 9/11 occurred, and he was very public that year again, making public statements all year about his perspective on politically on what happened that year, and he talked a great deal about tariffs as well in 2001 in talk shows. If you go back to 1989, when Jupiter was conjunct his Sun, he was again very public, very verbal, and focusing on shall we say, it was Central Park 5. You can look at the history of that. The Central Park 5, there was a crime in Central Park. 5 black boys were accused. Years later, they were released, found innocent. But during the time that Jupiter was sitting on the Sun in 1989, Donald Trump was very, very verbal about wanting to have those people executed. At any rate, here we are with Jupiter coming through the 10th house again in 2025. And he becomes the president. That's getting a lot of attention, and it's certainly a manifestation of Jupiter, growth and expansion and success in his life. Now, when Jupiter is conjunct the Sun at the end of April, it's also the same moment in time that Uranus will square his Mars for the second time. The first time transiting Uranus squared Mars for Donald Trump was last October when someone tried to shoot him. That backed up retrograde, transiting Uranus, and it is going to be again squaring Mars at the same moment in time that Jupiter is conjunct his Sun. And that's the end of April, early May. A very difficult, potentially dangerous time for Donald Trump. He will either be a recipient of this energy or this energy will be coming from him. Something to keep an eye on and watch for. So where's Jupiter traveling in your chart? That's where you'll be able to see the seed potentiality for growth and expansion. Now, in general terms, with Jupiter being in Cancer for the world, Cancer is the sign of motherhood and mothering, home, family. It's also food. So these Cancer things, these are going to be a seed potentially getting a great deal of attention this year from the whole world. Housing, lack of it, potentially a major change and transition in the housing market, potential with food issues. Jupiter will enlarge everything, and it therefore is that planet of potentially prosperity, an enlargement of enrichment in the life. But you have to be careful with the Jupiter transiting energy because it's also overdoing. It's overreacting, overplanning, overacting in some fashion. And this seems to be the case with Donald Trump. An excessive amount of energy overlaying all the decisions he's making, going overboard. That's another good reason to know where Jupiter is traveling in your chart, to know where the seed potentials for prosperity are in a given year, and as well to know where the seed energy is, where you could easily overdo it. and have challenges in your life from overdoing, overspending, overeating, over speculating, over expectation. Doing anything too much is one of the dangers of Jupiter, especially too much of a good thing. So look up Jupiter and see where it's traveling in your chart and see where the seed potential is for growth and expansion and excessive energy showing up in your life. And keep an eye on what's happening for Donald Trump at the end of April, early May. Take care.